Alright, so good evening everyone and welcome to our rationalization of the free pre-test for the March 2025 MTLE takers. Okay, I'm Dr. Gabriel Paul Pascual. Before we start uh, before we start, let me just talk about some of our review programs, no? So ongoing po ang enrollment namin for our March 2025 Medtech Board Review. Okay, sorry guys na mabilisan lang po ito, no? Uh, our review package includes the following. So you have your comprehensive lectures by our national lecturers and top-notchers. You also have the reinforcement lectures. And marami po tayong pa-exam, no? Assessment exams, comprehensive exams, and mock boards. You also have use of Scantron sheets, no, during your exams. Now, this is for our face-to-face reviewees. No? They'll be able to experience our Scantron machine. Okay, so kung yan din yung ginagamit during the actual boards, guys. You'll also have access to the Legend Portal. So this is for both online and face-to-face reviews. Ibig sabihin po, yung mga face-to-face reviews natin, they also have access to the online resources. Okay? May mga babalikan din silang mga recordings, no? Just in case may na-miss sila ng mga lectures sa face-to-face. You'd also have access to my extensive compilation of recall questions. So may separate kami na hidden, no? Hidden private group sa Facebook with all of these recalls. Okay? You also have access to our digital flashcards and other additional online resources. Free na rin po ang final coaching. Free din ang shipping na hard copy ng lecture notes, no, for those na enroll sa online. Okay? And you will have, of course, mentoring and guidance from our mentors. Alright? So these are our top notchers over the past years. Hindi ko na isa-isahin, guys. Last board exam, we had one top-notcher. That's Sir Keener Roche Iturralde, no, from Angeles University Foundation. Okay, 10th place po siya. Ang kanyang board rating was 90.60. No? Mataas yung board rating niya. Pero of course, marami ring mataas during that time. Ayun, as in magkakadikit sila. No? Ganun yung labanan sa mga top-notchers last board exam. Okay? So for our online program, 8.5 pa rin po ang aming online review fee. Hindi po kami nag-increase. Kasama na po dyan yung hard copy notes and also the free shipping. Okay? First batch natin is about to start on September 7. Bukas na pala, no? Orientation na nila bukas. Okay? Pero hindi kayo makahabol dyan. We still have our second batch, our third batch, and our fourth batch. No, lahat po niyan hanggang sa dulo na, hanggang March na po. Okay? Ang pinaka-difference lang is yung pacing. No? Of course, yung mga earlier batches, mas wide yung spacing. No? Para yung mga students, hindi sila na-overwhelm. Okay? For Baguio, our first batch should start on September 21. 13.5 pa rin po ang review fee, hindi pa rin po nagbabago. Okay? Sa Davao naman po, October 19 ang first batch. No, 18,000 ang review fee natin. But we have a lot of discounts, no? You can have your group enrollment discount, no? So for groups of 10, 2,000 off silang lahat. Okay? No, 15,000 pang review fee. And meron din po tayong group discount na 1,500, no, for each of the members of the group. All right. And then for Pampanga, our first batch should start on October 12. Okay? One batch lang po tayo sa Pampanga. All right. Let me introduce myself. I'm Dr. Gabriel Juan Pascual, or you can call me Doc Gab. I'm the founder and CEO of Legend Review Center. I placed second din po ng September 2014 Medtech Licensure Exam. I graduated as cum laude for my Doctor of Medicine degree at FUNRMF and magna cum laude for my BMLS degree at St. Louis University. And magsasama kayo sa akin, guys, no? Pag nag-enroll kayo sa Legend, no? Because I'm really hands-on, especially mga ganito, no? We have our late night talks, no? Pag may review, no? Minsan pag naisip ako, magpapa-lecture ako ng gabi, no? Ayun. By the way, clear ba yung audio natin? Clear ba yung audio natin, guys? Alright. So just in case, no, na maging unstable yung connection, sabihan niyo lang po ako, ha? I'm currently in Cagayan de Oro. No, may ano rin kasi ang legend dito. May in-house review din tayo sa Cagayan de Oro colleges, no, part of the FINMA network. All right. Now let's talk about the pretest. No? So for the pretest, we had a total of 30 points. Okay. The average score was 17. Okay, 17.66. Okay, pero may mga naka-perfect pa rin naman. May mga naka-30 over 30. Okay? So after this rationalization, i-release po natin yung yung mga scores ninyo. No, makita ninyo kung above the average ba kayo or below the average. Okay? And then we also asked, what do you think is your most likely score in this pre-test? So majority answered no, around 11 to 15. That's 29.5% of the respondents. Remember, ang average score, yung actual score was 18. Okay, most of the students, they were thinking na ang kanilang score was around 11 to 15 lang. So what does this mean? No? Ibig sabihin po, a lot of the students were actually underestimating themselves. No, akala nila mas mababa yung score nila. When in reality, higher pala yung nakuha nila na score. Okay? So let's go over the questions. Let's start with clinical chemistry. Last board exam, medyo mahirap pa rin ang clinical chemistry. And there were a lot of questions na unpredictable. No? But still, majority of the questions, basic pa rin naman. Okay? Lahat naman ng subjects, guys, no? Basic pa rin ang focus nyo dapat. Okay? Huwag kayong mangarap na aralin yung mga trivial, yung mga nice to know, without going over the basics. No? Ang labanan pa rin sa boards, guys, basic pa rin. Okay? So first question, which of the following detects your random error? So hindi po nawawala sa boards ang mga questions regarding your Westgard rules. So make sure kabisado po ang Westgard rules. Okay? So the answer here is your R4S. And thankfully, majority answered correctly. Now, 63.7% answered R4S. The rest of the choices, your 41S, 22S, and 10X all detect systematic errors. Okay? How do we remember this? Ano palatandaan natin dito? Okay? Sa mga Westgard rules nyo, yung mga nagsa-start sa even number, so sino ba yung mga nagsa-start sa even number? Yan, si 41S, 22S, 10X. So mga nagsa-start sa even number, they all detect systematic errors. No, those that start with odd numbers, okay, random errors sila. And of course, that includes R4S. Okay? So we have your table showing you the VARS Westgard rules. Again, make sure po makabisado po natin ito. Okay? Siyempre, tinatanong po yung description. Other than that, you have the type of error. Okay, naturo ko na sa yung palatandaan dito, guys. Na pag nag-start sa even number, systematic. Okay, so again, that's 22S, 41S, and 10X. And then the rest to detect random errors. Alright? And then take a look at the last column. Ayan. So makita ninyo, almost all of these Westgard rules are rejection rules. Nag-iisa lang po ang warning rule nyo. The only warning rule here or warning flag is 1-2S. Okay? So again ha, ito guys, yung Westgard rules. No, kailangan mo master natin yan bago board exam. Hindi po ito nawawala sa mga board exams. Usually mga 1 to 2 questions yan. Okay? Next, causes symptoma of elbow and knees. Ano bang ibig sabihin pag sinabing santoma? Pag nakita niyo yung OMA, ano ibig sabihin pag sinabing OMA? Yung suffix na OMA. Okay? Pag nakita niyo po yung OMA, this pertains to a mass or a tumor. Okay? Pag sinabi pong santoma, you have a mass or accumulation of lipids, no? Especially in your skin, but also some other parts of the body. Okay? Santomas are associated no, with elevated cholesterol as well as triglycerides. So actually, possible answers here include your high LDL and also high VLDL. Pareho silang possible answer. Okay? But sa board, syempre, mamimili ka lang ng isa. Okay? Ang best answer po dito would still be your high LDL. Okay? Majority got this correctly, no? 50.8. Pero marami rin, as you can see, marami rin sumagot ng high VLDL. No, you're not completely incorrect. Yun nga lang kasi sa boards, you have to answer the best answer. Okay? So, Santoma, these are raised, yellow, not general lesions that can present anywhere on the body. Okay? Again, these are the position of lipids or fats. Okay? Ang pinaka-correlated po with the presence of xanthoma would be your LDL. Okay? But again, pwede rin naman ng VLDL. Next question. Which of the following serves as a popular marker for heart failure? Ito pa, ulit-ulit kong ina-emphasize sa lecture ko. Ayan. So for heart failure, ang marker actually is your brain natriuretic peptide or BNP. No? Kita nyo dito guys, no, maraming sumagot ng troponin. No, please remember that troponin is your marker for myocardial infarction. Magkaiba po sila ni heart failure. Magkaiba po sila ni heart failure. For heart failure, that's BNP. Ang troponin po, that's your gold standard for myocardial infarction. Okay? Common mistake to guys. No, ilang beses nang tinanong to. Iba't ibang board exam. Marami talagang students na sumasagot ng troponin. Okay, mali po yun. No? For heart failure, again, it's your BNP, brain natriuretic peptide. Okay? Tandaan nyo na please. Malay nyo, tanungin ulit ng March 2025 kasi paulit-ulit talaga yung tanong na to. Okay? Para sa naman ng fibronectin? Para sa ng fibronectin, guys? Do you have an idea? Fibronectin is a marker for preterm delivery. Okay? Preterm delivery. So preterm, wala pa sa, ibig sabihin wala pa sa due date. No, masyadong maaga pa. No, nagkakaroon na ng labor yung nanay. No, in this case, pwedeng tumaas ang fibronectin. Okay? How about myoglobin? Para sa ng myoglobin? Myoglobin is also a marker for myocardial infarction. In fact, myoglobin is the earliest protein marker. Okay, myoglobin is the earliest protein marker for myocardial infarction. Siya yung pinakaunang tumataas. No, even before troponin increases, tumataas na po ang myoglobin in your myocardial infarction. Okay? Yun nga lang, the problem is myoglobin is non-specific. No, marami pong mga tissue, no, especially yung mga skeletal muscle ninyo, marami rin pong may myoglobin. So pag tumaas ang myoglobin, hindi mo sure kung MI ba yun. Okay? However, if the myoglobin is normal, okay, you are sure na walang MI yung patient. Gets nyo? So ang myoglobin, more of pang-rule out ng MI. No? Pag negative siya, alam mo na, uy, walang heart attack si patient. Makahinga tayo na maayos. Okay? Moving on. Yeah, so BNP, again, this is a popular marker for congestive heart failure. Next question, what is the formula for diagnostic sensitivity? So far sa local boards, hindi sila nagpapakompute pa ng mga ganito. Ang lagi nilang tinatanong, ano yung formula? Okay? Pero syempre, hindi nyo alam. No? Malay nyo, by March 2025, no, sipagin na sila, magtanong na sila ng competitions regarding this. Okay? Pero so far, sinasabi ko na sa inyo, so far, yung formula pa lang ang pinapa-identify. Okay? However, if you're planning to take the ESCP, no, sa ESCP, nagpapakompute sila nito. Okay? So for diagnostic sensitivity, the formula is true positive divided by true positive plus false negative. Okay? Sino naman yung true negative divided by true negative plus false positive? Para saan to? Anong formula naman to, guys? Okay, this is diagnostic specificity. Okay? This is diagnostic specificity. This one, yung second na formula, true positive divided by true positive plus false positive, puro positive, that's what we call your, anong tawag sa formula na to? This is your PPV, positive predictive value. Okay? And then yung last formula, yung true negative divided by true negative plus false negative, that's your negative predictive value. Negative predictive value. Okay? Ayan, mahilig sila magtanong na ganyan sa boards. Pinapa-identify nila yung formula. Alright, moving on. Ito. Female born with XX chromosomes develop ambiguous genitalia or genitals that resemble or that appear male. What is this condition? Okay, ito po, tinanong din sa two board exams ago. Okay, pinost ko na to actually sa Twitter, no? Even before the March 2020, even before the August 2024 board exam, na-post ko na yan. Okay? And ngayong boards, no, nung kakatapos, nung August 2024, lumabas na naman siya. Nasusundan? Lumabas na naman siya. Okay? So pag double X yan, XX ang chromosome, alam mong babae po yung patient. Genetically female yan. Okay? Ang problema po is yung ambiguous genitals. These ambiguous genitals can be seen in congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Okay? Ano nangyari sa congenital adrenal hyperplasia? So congenital adrenal hyperplasia, nagkakaroon ng excessive androgen. Nagkakaroon ng excessive androgen formation. Okay? Please forgive me for my handwriting. Wala yung digital pen ko kaya sa ano ko lang siya. Sa sa pad lang no ng laptop ko ako nagsusulat. Yan. So nagkakaroon ng excessive androgens sa congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Okay, this is because all of your cholesterol is being shunted towards the production of your androgen. Okay? As a result, because of the excessive androgen, yung genitals ng female na neonate lumalaki. No? So napagkakamalang penis. Yun yung tinatawag na ambiguous genitalia. Okay? Hindi po ito Turner syndrome. Hindi po ito Turner syndrome. Sa Turner syndrome po, your patient is XO. May deletion po siya ng X chromosome. Okay, ito yung tinatawag na monosomy X. No? Isang X chromosome lang ang present. Okay? Klinefelters naman, ang Klinefelter po, this is, anong genetic tawag dito? Anong genetic makeup ng Klinefelter? So, di ba si Turner's nawawalan ng X chromosome. Dito po, may extra na X chromosome. This is XXY. So, lalaki to actually, no? Kasi may Y chromosome, no? XY. Pero, may excess na X chromosome. That's Klinefelter. Okay? Down syndrome, in Down syndrome, the genetic problem is your trisomy 21. Ibig sabihin po, you have 3 copies of your chromosome 21. Okay? Now, going back to congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Congenital adrenal hyperplasia is due to enzymatic defects in cortisol production. The most common cause of this is your 21 hydroxylase deficiency. Okay, tandaan niyo na ito please. No, the most common enzyme deficiency causing your congenital adrenal hyperplasia is 21 hydroxylase deficiency. Okay? Ano bang role ng 21 hydroxylase? Okay, for us to appreciate this, we have to go back to your steroidogenesis. Okay? Hindi nyo kailangang i-memorize po ito. Ipo-point out ko na yung mahalaga. Okay? So starting here, yan, tingin muna kayo dito, you could see here cholesterol. Remember, si cholesterol po, yung precursor ng lahat ng steroid hormones. Siya po yung parent molecule ng lahat ng steroid hormones. Okay? In the zona glomerulosa of your adrenal cortex, cholesterol can be converted to aldosterone. Okay? It can be converted to aldosterone, which is one of your mineralocorticoids. Sa zona fasciculata, okay, cholesterol can be converted to cortisol, which is one of your glucocorticoids. Okay? And then deeper down the adrenal cortex, you have the zona reticularis. Okay? The zona reticularis can convert cholesterol to androgens or your sex steroids. Yan ang normal. Nasusundan nyo, guys? Now, what happens in 21 hydroxylase deficiency? Nasaan ba dito si 21 hydroxylase? Okay? Dito sa diagram na to, si 21 hydroxylase po, yung CYP21. Ito siya, guys. Yan, CYP21. That's your 21 hydroxylase. So what happens if you have deficiency of this enzyme? Can you still produce aldosterone? Yes or no? Type lang sa chat box. Can you still produce aldosterone? Yes or no? Wala yung enzyme di ba? O, hindi ka na makapag-produce ng aldosterone. Babagsak yung aldosterone levels mo. Can you produce cortisol? Can you produce cortisol? Okay, no also. Okay? So ano mangyari? Lahat po ng precursors, lahat po ng precursors ni aldosterone at cortisol, lahat ng precursors na yan, they are shunted towards androgen production. So yung androgen levels nyo would be increased. Okay? So anong gagawin ng androgens na yan? These androgens would cause enlargement of the genitals leading now to ambiguous genitalia. Hindi tayo sure kung yung baby lalaki ba or babae. Okay? Kaya magpapa-chromosomal studies pa yung mga yan no, para ma-determine talaga yung sex ng neonate. Okay? Now at the same time, aside from the ambiguous genitalia, magkakaroon ka rin ng manifestations due to decreased cortisol as well as decreased aldosterone. Okay? So nagets po ito? Nagets po natin si CAH, congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Again, the most common enzyme deficiency is 21 hydroxylase. All right. So we're done with the recalls for clinical chemistry. Let's go over recalls in micropara. Okay? By the way, marami pa to actually. Pinili ko lang po yung mga interesting na mga recalls this batch. Okay, actually marami pang interesting. Hindi ko na lang sila nasama lahat kasi limited lang ako to 5 questions per subject. Okay? Let's go over micropara recall questions. So first, which of the following can cause eosinophilia and pneumonitis? Is it 1, Ascaris lumbricoides, 2, Strongyloides stercoralis, or 3, Ancylostoma duodenale? Okay? Yung original na recall question dito, hindi siya Morse type. Yung binigay sa amin ng recall, hindi siya Morse type. Ano to? A, Ascaris, B, Strongy, C, Ancylostoma. Ganun siya. Okay? Nasagot dito. Ang sagot po dito is 1, 2, and 3. Lahat po sila, they can lead to eosinophilia and pneumonitis. Why? Anong common sa tatlong to? Anong common sa tatlong helmet na yan? Okay, very good. No? All of this undergo your heart to lung migration. So somewhere in their life cycle, their larvae migrates in the lungs. Na magmamigrate sa lungs, tapos aakyat yan, no, sasama sa sputum, and then ma-ingest mo yung sputum together with the larvae. Lahat sila napapadaan sa lungs. And dahil napapadaan sila sa lungs, nagkakaroon ng respiratory symptoms. Okay? Ang mnemonics po dito, ASH. Huwag niyo kalimutan yung mnemonics na ASH. So ano ibig sabihin ng ASH? A is Ascaris, S is Strongyloides stercoralis, and then H should be your hookworms. Okay? Lahat po sila, they have heart to lung migration. So lahat sila magkukos ng pneumonitis. Particularly the larvae, no, causes pneumonitis. Okay? Now, ang problema nung tinanong to last boards, sabi ko nga sa inyo, ang hindi to Morse type, no? A, B, C, D yan, no? A, Ascaris, B, Strongy, C, Ancylostoma. Tapos may isa pang choice, yung letter D. So letter D lang po yung hindi nag-undergo ng heart to lung migration. Okay, all the rest of the choices, last board exam, nag-undergo ng heart to lung migration. So, pwedeng isagot yung A or yung B or yung C. Lahat sila tamang answer. Okay? Feeling ko, last board exam, supposedly may not yung tanong. Does not cause pneumonitis. Tapos nakalimutan na lang ng board examiner ilagay yung not. Okay? Siguro ganun siya, no? Ang board exam ganun talaga, guys, no? Ang daming mga problematic na questions, no? Wala tayong magagawa doon, hindi tayo board examiner. Okay? Next. Ito yung mga life cycle niya. This is for Ascaris. As you can see, the larvae of Ascaris passes through the lungs. And this would cause pneumonitis. Ganon din po sa hookworms, no? Yung hookworms ninyo, yung hookworm larvae ninyo, dumadaan din sa lungs. Hence causing pneumonitis. Ganon din for strongy. For strongyloides, the larvae also passes through the lungs. Hence causing pneumonitis. Okay, lahat po ng part ng ash nagkukos ng pneumonitis. Okay, next. Which of the following is the earliest marker for infectious mononucleosis? This is your anti-BCA IgM. And thankfully, maraming nakatama dito. 65% got this correctly. Okay? Anti-BCA IgM, the earliest marker of infectious mononucleosis. Nang itong tanong ko sa inyo, what is the causative agent for infectious mononucleosis? Type nga sa. Okay, very good. This is your EBV or your Epstein-Barr virus. Okay? So ayan, the IgM antibody to your VCA or your anti-VCA IgM is the most useful marker for acute infectious mononucleosis. Okay? Siya yung maagang tumataas. These are the various antibodies associated with the Epstein-Barr virus-associated diseases. Huwag na nating isa-isahin to, guys. Okay? But if you look at the table, you would see here infectious mononucleosis. Okay? Yung anti-VCA IgM, nagpa-positive lang po yan for infectious mononucleosis, especially in the earlier stages. Alright. Next. Which of the following is transmitted through the oral fecal route? So ito, kabisado nyo to, no? Ang mnemonics dito actually, TAE, di ba? TAE. So ang nag-undergo ng transmission through the oral fecal route would be HEPA A and your HEPA E virus. So, ang nag-undergo ng oral fecal route transmission is your HEPA A and HEPA E. Now, ang problema po, last board exam, hindi to Morse type. No, ang choices niyo A, HEPA A, B, HEPA B, C, HCV, and then D, HEV. Sino sa kanila nag-undergo ng oral fecal route? So, dalawa na naman yung possible answers. Okay? Pag ganun, guys, mamili na lang kayo, di ba? Mamili na lang kayo ng isa, tapos mag-move on na kayo. No, kasi sure tayo, pareho sila nag-undergo ng oral fecal route. Okay? So we have here a summary of your hepatitis viruses. Pwede yung screenshot to. And kitang-kita nyo naman, HEPA A and HEPA E ang may fecal oral route transmission. Okay? Question, sa mga HEPA viruses ninyo, sino ang nagli-lead to chronic hepatitis? Sino nagkakos ng chronic hepatitis? Okay, so chronic hepatitis, okay, very good. No, associated siya more with your hepatitis C. However, aside from hepatitis C, hepatitis B can also cause chronic hepatitis. Okay, pareho po sila. Hepa B and Hepa C, they both cause chronic hepatitis. And ang chronic hepatitis ninyo, can lead to your cirrhosis. So sino yung dalawang HEPA virus, no, which can lead to cirrhosis? Si HEPA B at saka si HEPA C. Pareho po silang pwede mag-cause ng cirrhosis. Okay? Next, what is the color of lactose fermenters on McConkey agar? Para masagot niyo to, kailangan maalala ninyo yung color indicator sa McConkey. O, ano muna yung color indicator nyo sa McConkey agar? What is the indicator in your McConkey? Okay, wala pong sasagot ng phenol red. Kasi ang phenol red, guys, yellow yan kapag acid ang environment. Okay? Sa McConkey, ang indicator po is neutral red. Ay, sumagot ng phenol red sa GC. At least red. Tama naman. Tumama yung kalahati. Okay? Tumama yung kalahati. Okay lang yun, guys. No, that's why we're having this. No, okay lang magkamali ngayon. Pag nagkamali ka ngayon, di ba, mas maalala mo siya. And pag tinanong in the future, tama mo na. Di ba? Kesa magkamali ka sa boards pa. O, magkamali ka na ngayon, okay lang. Mas okay yan. No, learn from your mistakes. Ika nga. Okay? Mas gusto ko pa yung sumasagot tapos nagkakamali kasi yung totally hindi sumasagot. Okay? Ayan. So for McConkey, the indicator is neutral red. And si neutral red, upon exposure to acid, it becomes red or pinkish. Okay? Remember, in fermentation, you produce acids. No? So yung acid na yun na magkakos ng pink color ng neutral red. So this is your McConkey. McConkey is a selective differential medium for your enteric gram-negative rods or your Enterobacteriaceae. The inhibitor for your McConkey would be your bile salts and crystal violet. This would inhibit most of your gram-positives. Lactose fermenters would be colored pink. Non-lactose fermenters would be colorless. Okay? May palatandaan ako dito. Di ba McConkey? Okay, para maalala niyo yung color ng mga lactose fermenters, imagine niyo si McDonald na pink yung buhok. Kilala niyo si McDonald, yung clown? Di ba? Imagine niyo pink yung buhok niya. Yan, para maalala niyo yung kulay ng mga lactose fermenters on McConkey. I have included a summary of your VARS color indicators. Na pwede yung picture to, guys. So aside from McConkey, another medium that contains neutral red is your SSA. That's your Salmonella Shigella agar. Okay? Phenol red would be found in your MSA, your XLD, your CTA, your urease, and your TSI. Bromthymol blue would be found in your citrate, also in your hectoin enteric, your OF medium as well, and your TCBS. Okay? Please memorize this table. No? Very helpful po ito. Okay. Next, where is the Scolex located? So last board exam, no? May picture na ganito. Yan, may picture ng tapeworm. Binura po yung mga label. Pinalitan ng 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then ang tanong po, nasan yung Scolex? So remember, the Scolex is the head. Okay, so ang sagot dito, 1. Okay? So ayun yung Scolex, no? Yung ulo. Now, behind the Scolex is the neck. What is the importance of the neck region? Recall question din to, guys. What is the importance of the neck region? The neck region is your, ayun, very good. The neck region is your site of growth or the region of growth. Yung mga bagong proglottids po, yung mga bagong proglottids, lahat sila nanggagaling sa neck. So kahit na maputol yung tapeworm, pero na-retain naman yung scolex at yung neck inside the human host, tutubo lang din ulit yung tapeworm. Okay? Again, the neck is your region of growth. Okay, tandaan nyo na yan. Tinanong na yan sa boards. Okay? Ano kaya itong number 3 dito? Ano kaya number 3 that is pertaining to one segment? One segment is one proglotid. And then what do you call a series of proglotins? What do you call a series of proglotins? Type mo sa chat box. Okay, so itong number 4, no, you have a series of proglottids. This is what you call the strobila. No, your series of proglottids is your strobila. Okay? Do you have questions regarding micropara? All right, let's continue. So let's go over clinical microscopy. Medyo bibilisan na natin, guys. Ayan. So first, what is the normal range of CSF protein? So this question tells you, no, na nagtatanong na rin sila ng mga reference ranges. And mind you, okay, pati yung unit of measurement, kailangan sure kayo. Okay? So ang sagot po dito is 15 to 45 milligrams per deciliter. The majority got this correctly, no? But a lot of students also answered 15 to 45 grams per deciliter. Hindi po. No? Ang unit of measurement for CSF protein is milligrams per deciliter. Okay? Ayan. So as early as now, no, lista nyo na yung mga normal values kay Strasinger. Okay? So for CSF, again, the reference value for total CSF is 15 to 45 milligrams per deciliter. Okay? Next, identify the composition of the falling crystal. So may ganitong picture po sa boards. Ano yung prominent characteristic na nakikita nyo dito sa crystal? Ano yung clue nyo dyan? Yung jagged edge, notched edge, notched. Okay? So lahat yan, no? Characteristic of your what crystal? Cholesterol crystal. Okay? Majority got this correctly. Mga 82.5% got this correctly. Okay? So ang ano dito, ang key takeaway dito guys, now make sure that you study the crystals. Alam nyo dapat yung pictures niyan. No, kasi lumalabas na talaga sila sa board exam. Nakuha nyo? Yan. Maganda naman yung pagkaka-discuss ni Strasinger dito. And ang dami ring pictures kay Strasinger. Okay? Aralin niyo po yung itsura nila. Okay? So cholesterol crystals are described to have, they are described to be rectangular plates with a notch in one or more corners. Okay? Next, microscopic examination of a clear urine that produces a pink precipitate after refrigeration would show your amorphous urates. What particular pigment causes this pink precipitate? Type nga sa chat box. Hindi yung mismong urates kasi yan eh. May pigment na na-incorporate dun sa urate during refrigeration. Siya yung nagkakos ng pink precipitate. Ano yung pigment na yon? Okay, very good. That is your uroerythrin. Okay? Uroerythrin. Kung kailangan nyo ng spelling, nasa chat box po yung spelling. No? Uroerythrin. Okay? Yeah. Next, which of the following epithelial cells is clinically significant? Majority of the epithelial cells, non-significant sila. No, wala silang clinical significance. Okay? However, your clue cells, sabi ni Strasinger, they are of pathologic significance. In what condition do you see your clue cells? Type nga sa chat box. Okay, very good. The clue cells are seen in bacterial vaginosis. Okay, yun po yung clinically significant na squamous cell. All other types of squamous cell, insignificant yan. Usually, pag nakita nyo nga na maraming squamous cell, that's your clue that the specimen might not have been correctly collected. No, baka hindi nag-midstream clean cuts yan, no? Pag maraming squamous cell. How about yung transitional cell? Where do you find this transitional cell? Bakit hindi po ito clinically significant? Okay, very good. Your transitional cell is the lining of your urinary bladder. Another term for this is your urothelial cell. Okay? Now, since lining po ito ng urinary bladder, you expect that your urine would always contain some of these transitional cells. Normal po yan. Okay? So this is a picture of your clue cell. Kita-kita nyo yung squamous cell, no? As in, tinadtad siya ng mga bacteria. That is your clue cell. Okay? Next, urine contaminant described as highly refractile spheres, usually with a dimpled center. Ang giveaway po dito yung dimpled center. Sino may dimpled center? Okay, this is your starch. Okay? So majority got this correctly. So starch granule contamination may occur when cornstarch is the powder used in powder gloves. The granules are highly refractile spheres, usually with the dimpled center. Ito yung hanapin nyo talaga dyan, guys. Yung dimpled center. So ito yung itsura. Try to burn this into your memory. So kitang-kita nyo sa gitna, you have the dimple center. Now, this is your starch granule. And we're done with clinical microscopy. Do you have questions so far? Okay lang po ba yung audio natin? Stable po yung ating connection? Stable po yung connection natin. Naririnig po ako. Alright. So last board exam, no, you might not believe this, but hematology was one of the easiest subjects, kung hindi man siya yung easiest. Okay? I know nahihirapan kayo sa hima ng third year, ng fourth year, and so on, no? Pero sa board exam po, no, believe it or not, it is one of the easiest last boards. Okay? So first question, variation in the color of RBCs. O, ano yung term natin for this? Okay, the term is polychromatophilia. Okay? O, yun lang. Terminology lang, guys. Diba? Pag sinabing anisocytosis, how do you define anisocytosis? Okay, ang anisocytosis naman po would be variation in size. Alright? Next. In which condition are neutrophils with two lobes seen? The nuclear shape resembles a dumbbell or a pair of eyeglasses. So this is your Pelzer-Hewitt anomaly. Remember, in Pelzer-Hewitt, no, ang problem dito is hyposegmentation. Normally, yung mga neutrophils ninyo, around 2 to 5 lobes yan. Okay, but in Pelzer-Hewitt, you can have 2 lobes or even no lobes at all. Okay, hyposegmentation. Okay, so this is a picture showing you your Pelzer-Hewitt anomaly. Okay, dalawang lobes lang ang nakikita nyo at ang maximum. Alright, next. What is the immediate precursor of metamyelocytes? Ito guys, very basic question. Pero nagulat ako doon na ang dami pa rin nagkamali. Ano, maraming sumagot ng promyelocyte. Bakit kaya? Di ba ang tinatanong immediate precursor? Immediate meaning sino yung agad, no? Agad-agad bago si metamyelocyte. Sino ba yung before metamyelocyte? That's your myelocyte. Okay? So ito po yung stages ninyo for your granulocyte maturation. You start with your myeloblast, followed by promyelocyte, followed by myelocyte, followed by your metamyelocyte, and then you have your band form, and finally your mature granulocyte. Okay? So immediately before metamyelocyte is your myelocyte. Okay? Siguro nalito lang yung mga students dito. No, ang daming sumagot ng ano, ayan no, 33%. 33% na sumagot ng promyelocyte. Mali po yan. Okay? Pag nalilito kayo sa mga ganitong tanong guys, ang isang tip ko sa mga students, try niyong itagalog or whatever language na comfortable kayo. no? I-translate niyo para mas maintindihan niyo yung tinatanong ng question. Alright. Next, what factor deficiency is detected by your 5 molar urea solubility test? So this is your factor 13 deficiency. Okay? So very basic question din. O, ito yung tanong ko sa inyo. What is the other name for your 5 molar urea solubility test? May nakakaalam po ba? What's the other name of your 5 molar urea solubility test? Naku, iba-ibang spelling. May Docker, may Dracket, Dockerts. Okay lang yan. Huwag kayong mag-alala. Walang spelling sa board exam. May Dockers. Ako, Ducky. Ba't may Ducky na rin? Dark Crits. Nalito na rin ako. This is your Dockerts test. Okay? So anong principle nito, guys? Remember, the rule of factor 13 is to stabilize your clot. Okay? Kung wala kang factor 13, can you still form your clot? Yes or no? Kung walang factor 13, can you still form your clot? Yes. No, you can form your clot. Pero anong problema? Ang magiging problema mo, hindi mo ma-stabilize yung clot. Unstable yung mapoproduce mo na clot. Okay? So yung unstable clot na yon, if you place it in 5 molar urea, it would be easily dissolved. Malulusaw siya. This is in contrast to the normal clot. Yung normal clot ninyo, even if you put it on 5 molar urea, hindi siya matutunaw. Stable siya. Nagets nyo? Okay? So huwag niyo kakalimutan si factor 13. That's your fibrin stabilizing factor. Okay? Next. So again, your 5 molar urea solubility test is for your factor 13 deficiency. Okay, next. Ito first time tinanong sa boards to. Dati natatanong lang po ito sa ASCP. Okay? So the question was, what test quantitatively measures the ability of whole blood to form a clot? This is your TEG. Okay? TEG, TEG. Ano ibig sabihin ng TEG or TEG? Your TEG is your thromboelastography. Okay? TEG is a non-invasive test that quantitatively measures the ability of whole blood to form a clot. Ang mini-measure actually dito, yung firmness ng clot. No? Gaano siya ka-firm over time. Okay? Pakitaan ko kayo ng itsura ng tawag dito, ng report no, ng TEG. So your TEG would generate this pattern. Okay? So ito po, nabubuo yan over time, yung pattern na to. So you start here, and then as time goes on, ayan, you go towards the right. So makita nyo guys, no, pakapal na kapakapal. No? Ang nire-represent ito is the firmness of the clot. Yan, yung lapad nitong diagram, ang nire-represent niya yung firmness ng clot. So initially, dito sa part na to, wala ka pang clot. 'Di ba? So dito nangyayari yung coagulation cascade nyo. Now, pag natapos na yung coagulation cascade, no, pag nagbubuo ka na ng fibrin from fibrinogen, you start na forming your clot. So magkakaroon ka na ngayon ng increase. Okay? Siyempre, may clot na no? Yan. So makita niyo over time, mas nagiging firm yung clot. Eventually, babagsak po ito. Bakit? Babagsak yung firmness ng clot. Bakit? Kasi mangyayari naman si fibrinolysis. Okay? Yung shape po nung diagram na ito can point out to problems in your clotting factor, your fibrinogen, your platelets, and even your fibrinolysis. No, but that's beyond the scope of our discussion. Medyo mahabang usapan yan. Okay? So we'll have more of this discussion soon, no? I-introduce na rin natin si Teg sa sa discussions natin for the local boards. Dati pang ESCP lang 'to, no? Pero ngayon po ini-introduce na rin siya sa local board exam. Okay? So asahan niyo na sa mga HIMA lectures natin, you have this. Madi-discuss na rin yan. Okay? Next subject is ISBB. So last board exam po, si ISBB yung isa sa mga pinaka mahirap. Okay, sa sobrang hirap, no, pag tinatanong mo yung student, ano ba yung tanong? No, hindi nila maalala yung exact na question. Okay, lalo na yung mga sobrang hirap, parang hindi na nila, parang after the exam, kinalimutan na talaga. Okay? Kung may mga nakakaalala man, fragments lang. So, ganun yung trauma na dinulot ng ISBB talaga. Okay, so first question, of the following are type 1 interferon except for, so you know your interferon alpha, beta, and gamma. Okay? Pero actually, may omega na rin. Oh, ito yun, napakita ko sa inyo guys. Ayan. No, may interferon omega na rin po. Even way back 1985, may interferon omega na. So actually, ang sagot dito, none of this. Lahat po nito are interferons. Okay? Last board exam, walang none of this sa choices. Ito lang yung choices nyo. Alpha, beta, gamma, and omega. In that case, of course, you answer omega. Okay? Sa yung least na kilala dyan eh. Siguro yung board examiner, nung ginagawa niya yung tanong na to, no, nag-isip na lang siya ng ibang Greek letter. Alam niya may alpha, alam niya may beta, alam niya may gamma. No, tapos nag-isip na lang siya ng ibang Greek letter. Nilagay niya sa choices omega. Hindi niya alam, may interferon din pala na omega. Okay? Oh, ganun talaga yung boards, guys. Ayan. Next, which of the following is the most specific marker for SLE? The most specific marker for SLE is your anti-double-stranded DNA. Okay? Medyo maraming sumagot na anti-Smith. Sa mga libro, mababasa ninyo na highly specific din ang anti-Smith for SLE. However, between anti-dsDNA and anti-Smith, mas specific po ang anti-dsDNA. Okay? Yes, true, no? Totoo po na specific ang anti-Smith. Pero, kung papapiliin kayo between the two, ang answer po natin, anti-dsDNA. Okay, so these are the various antibodies associated with your lupus. No, hindi ko na po isa-isahin ito. Okay. Again, ang most specific po is your anti-dsDNA. Alright, next question. We have your question regarding your tumor markers. So which of the following tumor markers is incorrectly matched with the associated cancer? Ang sagot po dito is CA125, colorectal cancer. Saan po associated ang CA125? Type nga sa chat box. Saan siya dapat associated? Okay, very good. Ang CA125 ninyo, more associated with ovarian cancer. Okay, not colorectal. Now, for colorectal cancer, ano dapat yung tumor marker niyo? Type nga ako ulit sa chat box. Okay, the tumor marker for colorectal cancer is CEA or your carcinoembryonic antigen. Okay? CA19-9 is for pancreatic cancer. 15-3 is for breast cancer. And then si CIFRA21-1, that's for your lung cancer. Okay? So yung mga ganitong tanong guys, hindi kayo dapat magkamali sa board exam. So we have here a list of the most common tumor markers. Pwede nyo screenshot to or pwede nyo balikan sa recording natin. By the way, no, ito pong lecture na ito, ipopost ko rin po sa YouTube. I-upload ko rin sa YouTube. No? If you go to our YouTube channel, makita nyo rin po yung rationalization ko ng mga recalls over the past years. No, every after each board exam, nagpapa-pretest talaga ako and then nira-rationalize ko siya. No, makita niyan over the years, no, yung trend ng mga questions. Okay, next. Which of the following is not a treponemal test? Anong ibig sabihin pag sinabing treponemal? Pag sinabing treponemal test, no, these are tests looking for antibodies against your treponemal antigens. Okay? Pag sinabing non-treponemal, iba yung target. An example of a non-treponemal test is your VDRL. Okay? So the non-treponemal tests are usually used for screening. Ang hinahanap po natin sa non-treponemal tests are antibodies against your cardiolipin. Ito yung tinatawag natin na reagin or reaginic antibodies. Okay? So examples ng mga non-treponemal include your VDRL, PR, TRUST, USR, and RST. Again, they look for antibodies against cardiolipin. Okay? Next, each of the following blood group antigens are destroyed by enzymes. Ito, paborito tong tanong even sa ASCP. Okay, the answer here is your Duffy. Okay, so the use of enzymes provides enhanced antibody reactivity to RH, KID, P1, Lewis, I antigens, and then it destroys or decreases reactivity to your Duffy A, Duffy B, M, N, and your S antigens. Okay? So, i-memorize nyo na to, please. Okay? Kailangan kilala nyo sino yung mga enhanced and sino yung mga destroyed. Okay? Ako, nung student ako, tinatandaan ko lang yung destroyed. So, tatandaan mo lang, no, yung mga Duffy at saka yung mga nasa MNS, sila yung mga destroyed. Yung iba, most likely enhanced sila. Pero mas maganda, tandaan nyo na yung both sides. Okay? Tandaan nyo yung mga enhanced, tandaan nyo yung mga destroyed. Okay? Last subject na po. Let's go over HTML recalls. So first, Venetian blinds effect is caused by what? Ito, nung tinanong to last words, no, daming students na nagpanic kasi first time daw nilang na-encounter yung term. Okay? Ano ba yung ibig sabihin ng Venetian blinds? Okay? Venetian blinds effect may be caused by over-hardening of tissue. Si Venetian blinds effect po, described yan as parallel undulations of varied thickness. Tignan nyo na lang yung picture no, para mas maintindihan nyo. Yan. So this is a section of tissue. If you examine closely, no, may mga parang parallel lines ka. No? These are alternating thick and thin sections. Yan yung tinatawag na Venetian blinds effect. So what are the causes of our Venetian blinds effect? This may be caused by hard tissue. So yung mga bones, no, uterus, brain, no, those are intrinsically hard. So malaki yung chance na magkakita ka ng Venetian blinds effect. Other than that, this may be caused by over-dehydration. Lahat to nasa slides, no? Ayan, over-dehydration, over-hardening, okay? Not secure tissue in the paraffin block. Blade may not be secured, vibrations in the microtome, rapid sectioning, block loose in the block holder, dull knife, or if the clearance angle is too wide. Maraming possible na causes. Okay? So ayan po, no? Next time na marinig niyo yan, hindi na kayo magugulat. Yun lang po ang ibig sabihin ng Venetian blinds effect. Okay? Yeah, this picture is actually from your Lab CE website. Okay, next. Securing informed consent is an example of what medical ethics principle? So, ang informed consent po is part of your autonomy. Okay? Pag sinabing autonomy, that is the ability of the patient to make his or her own decisions. Okay? So these are the four principles or four pillars of your medical ethics. You have your beneficence, which is doing good. So ibig sabihin niya, no, lahat ng actions natin dapat may benefit si patient. Okay? Kung wala namang good na gagawin yung action niya, huwag niyo nang gawin. No, wala rin sa kwenta. Okay? And then you have your non-maleficence. Non-maleficence is doing no harm. Okay, so as much as possible, yung mga actions natin should do no harm or at least minimize harm. Okay? For example, venipuncture. When you do your venipuncture, they harm your patient. Yes or no? Pag nagbe-veni tayo, nakaharm ba yung patient? Yes. May harm dun kasi may sugat yun. Kahit na maliit lang yun, sugat pa rin yun. So meron at merong harm. But, by principle of non-maleficence, you have to minimize this harm. Okay? So, as much as possible, you avoid your fishing. Okay? And make your venipuncture as less traumatic as possible. As non-traumatic as possible dapat. Nagets nyo? Okay? Another example, no, pag mag-oopera tayo ng pasyente, are we doing harm to the patient? Yes. No? Sinusugatan mo yung pasyente. No? But as much as possible, no, we minimize the harm. Okay? Another principle is autonomy. We have already discussed this. This is giving the patient the freedom to choose freely where they are able. Okay? May ano diyan, no? May pahabol. Sabi diyan where they are able. Kasi remember, may mga patients no na hindi capable of deciding for their own. No, yung mga minors, yung mga medically incapacitated, yung mga uh, under the influence of some drugs, no? Wala silang ability to choose for their own. So in that case, no, void yung autonomy nila. Okay? And then finally, you have your justice. No, justice is ensuring fairness. Okay? Please remember the four pillars of medical ethics. Okay? Next, sa autopsy po. What autopsy technique? Dissects your organs in situ. Pag sinabing in situ na dissection, nandun pa sa loob ng cadaver, no? Let's say yung liver, no, nandun pa sa cadaver, no? Dinadissect na siya. Hindi na nilabas yung organ. Yun yung ibig sabihin na in situ. Anong technique yan, no? That's your Rokitansky. Okay? So, huwag kakalimutan, si Virchow po yung one by one, no? The organs are removed one by one. Rokitansky is in situ. Okay? So, yung organ, while in place, no, dinadissect na, ine-examine na. Sig is and mass. Okay? Next, responsible for the quality of drug testing kits. So ang sagot po dito is your DOH. Actually, to be more specific, the agency responsible for ensuring quality of your drug testing kits is the FDA. Are you familiar with the FDA? So yung mga gamot, medical supplies, mga kits, etc., no? Lahat po niyan kailangan ng FDA certification. And ang FDA ninyo is under the supervision of your DOH. Okay? Ayan, Food and Drug Administration. Under po yan ng DOH. May ibang students, ang naalala daw nila na recall, HIV test kits. No? So kahit na HIV kits man yung tinanong, DOH pa rin ang sagot doon. DOH through the FDA. Okay? Next, which of the following appoints a Secretary of Education? So buti naman halos lahat tumama. Sagot po dito, President of the Philippines. No, lahat ng cabinet secretary, no, ang nag-a-appoint po, President of the Philippines. Not the Vice President. Okay? Not the Vice President. And hindi rin po yung previous na Deputy Secretary and of course hindi rin yung Congress. Ang nag-a-appoint po is the President of the Philippines. Okay? And that's it for our rationalization. Do you have questions, guys? May mga katanungan po ba tayo?